In this video, I'm going to walk you through creating social media content on a platform called Canva. Canva is a free online graphic design software with a pretty basic and intuitive function. While it's not great for more complex projects and designs, it's the perfect platform for creating memes and other social media-based graphics. So let's get started. First, we're going to go in and create an account. For our purposes, we're going to use the personal, home, or family type of account. You may have to use others as needed, but I think for most of you this should work. So once we do that, you guys can all sign up with Facebook. My Facebook is already linked to an account, so I'm going to sign up with email. So you can see Sasha G. Okay. We're in. So for our purposes, I'm going to say that we're using this as a social media manager. For most of you guys, that'll probably be the easiest thing to do as well. So, social media manager. The other thing you can do is link accounts for multiple of your team members. For a personal account, you can link it with up to 5 people. So feel free to do this so you can have all the members of your team sharing their designs and working together. All right, from there, we're going to create our first sample design. Where we're going to use the social graphic form, pretty much for anything you do for Facebook or for Twitter, you can use the same one. It's already optimized for that for those platforms. The square works really well for both of them. Okay, then we're going to continue using square social media graphic. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're presented with our blank square, it's to select a background color. So we're going to go up on the left, and that's where you're going to find all of your kind of basic command functions. We're going to go to the background tab. I pretty much always start with a black background. Well, there's some variation in what you can do in terms of colors and things like that. There are a few tips and tricks we use to optimize content to perform well and to have the most potential for going viral. One of these things is generally using a black or dark colored background that makes any text or images you use really pop. From there, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the dimensions to insert an image for later on in the process. So the way we're going to do that is by going to the elements bar on the left again, and then we're going to select grids. I pretty much always use the first option under the grids key, which is just the one bar option. With that, you can change it to any dimensions that you need for your graphic. I generally have it like something like this with a smaller box in the middle. We'll go back in later and I'll show you what that's used for, but for now it's a placeholder of where your image is going to go, and it's going to allow you to arrange your text around that. Okay, so next step is text. For text, I tend to use a pretty standardized format. There are really 2 fonts in Canva that work pretty well because they're clear, easy to read, and take up the space well. So for that, what you're going to do, it doesn't really matter if you click heading, subheading, or whatever. We're going to do subheading. Then we're going to go in, and changing the fonts is here in this upper little left-hand corner. And we're going to change it to the first of the 2 fonts, which is Lato Heavy. Lato Heavy is a slightly thinner font, but still sans serif, super easy to read. And it looks like that. The second font we're going to use is League Spartan. Still a sans serif font, but a little bit blockier and takes up a little bit more space. And so that's pretty important when you're deciding which of the 2 fonts you're going to use. One of the other really important things is making sure that your text and your images take up as much space in the graphic as possible. This is going to make them more eye-catching as people are scrolling through their feeds and make them more likely to stop and look at the message that you're trying to put out. Okay, so League Spartan. So you can see these are 2 different but still relatively similar fonts. So one of the really important things is making sure that your text is that you fill the space and your text takes up as much room as possible. So for that, we're going to switch this and say this is test 1 and test 2. So for test 1, we're just going to make it big, say like 64. It doesn't fill all the space, but given that there's not a lot of text, it fills the space well enough. For test 2, what we're going to do is Canva has an actually really great little function where you can put the whole thing automatically in uppercase. This is another really great way of taking up space and also emphasizing the things that you really want to emphasize. So with that, we're going to make that one also. And there you can see it takes up even more space. So both of these are really good fonts that you can use. I generally recommend using one of the two. Now, once you have your text in place and your grid in place, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to find an image. To do this, I generally just use Google Images, but you want to make really sure that you're using one that's labeled for reuse. So say we're making a meme about Paul Ryan. I'm going to search Paul Ryan, and once I'm in Images, I'm going to go to the Tools function and hit Usage Rights. From there, I want to make sure that I'm only looking at images that are labeled for reuse. This is to help protect you from any sort of copyright issues or anything like that. From there, I'm going to select my image. I think I like this one of Paul Ryan grimacing. Then we're going to right-click on that and hit Save Image As. I'm going to write Paul Ryan Grimace. From there, we're going to go back to Canva, and we're going to go to the Uploads button on the left-hand side. From there, we're going to hit Upload Our Own Images, and we're going to pick the Paul Ryan Grimace. Once that's uploaded, we're going to click that over in this little toolbar here and see how it pops up there, but it's not really fit well into the space. That's where your little elements thing comes into play. Your grid is going to help you actually fit this really well into the design of the meme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it and place it within that grid. And suddenly, there it is, perfectly fit into the graphic. The last thing we're going to do is you want to make sure that your logo is there. In order to do that, all you have to do is go back to Upload Your Own Images, select a picture of your logo, and boom, just upload it, click on it, bring it down to the size you want, and put it in the corner or wherever you want. I generally try and bring down the opacity on it a little bit so it's not quite as noticeable. In order to do that, you want to make sure the logo is selected and then go up to here to transparency in the top right-hand corner. From there, I usually bring it down to about the 60 mark. Once you've got your logo, images, and text in place, you're ready to go. From there, all you have to do is hit download and your image is ready to upload to Facebook. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you actually how to make a sample actual meme that we might use here at the Patriotic Millionaires. So one of the things that we often do is we find graphics that are related to our content but that we think could be a lot better. And then we remake them in a style that's better optimized to go viral on social media. So for something like that, I would create a new page, or create a new design. Find the graphic that I'm going to recreate. In this case, it's going to be this one. And from there, I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go back through this a little bit more quickly through the steps we just covered. 1, background, we're going to make it black. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select our grid so that we can insert an image of Paul Ryan. Bring that down to size. And then we're going to go to text. Once again, subheading. Since this meme has a lot of text, I'm probably going to go with Lato Heavy since it's going to leave me a little bit more room to make sure I can fit everything in and have it still all be legible. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to enter in the text. Again, pretty quick. Then we're going to create a second text box for the text we're going to go put at the bottom. That's going to say, all right, from here what we're going to do is we're going to adjust our text. So first we're going to go in and we're going to change the font Again, we're using Lato Heavy here. Adjust that for both of these. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust the text to make sure that it fills the space. So we're going to start with something like a 36 and see what that looks like. It looks good, but it could be a little bit better. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring down the spacing so that the letters aren't spaced so far apart to probably about 1.2. I think that looks good for this one. Then I think for this one it would probably look good in caps, so we're going to test out, see what that looks like. It's a little big. So let's see what it looks like at a 32 instead. All right, looks like we're getting a little bit closer. We can also scoot down this picture. We've got a lot of room at the bottom. And you're just going to want to play with this a little bit, figure out, what best fills the space, what makes, and what's kind of the most visually grabbing. So for this, I think we can actually now go back to the 36, see what that looks like. That looks a lot better there. We've got the spacing worked out. Now we're going to go down and see what we can do with the bottom. All right, so since the top is capitalized, it's probably going to look best if we do that with the bottom as well. So let's see now. We've got, right, that. Again, we're going to take the spacing down here from 1.4 to 1.2, just to fill a little bit of that dead space in there. We're going to adjust the text by bringing it up to make sure that it's all on the graphic, and let's play around and see if we can make this text actually take up a little bit more of the space. All right. Now that we've got our text figured out, it's time to move on to the image. I'm actually going to use the image that we used in the sample one last time, but if you remember, we went in, just uploaded our image and selected it. And then we're just going to throw Paul Ryan's face in there. Boom! All right, just a few more steps now. So one more thing that you can do if you want to highlight certain words or phrases. Take that down, actually, do a 35. There we go. To highlight certain phrases, we recommend using the color yellow. A lot of colors are actually hard for a lot of people to read, especially colors like red and green. But yellow is pretty good. Most people can see it pretty well, and it shows up pretty brightly. So let's say that we wanted to highlight a multi-million-dollar. We would highlight that in its text box, go up here and select the yellow option. And now it's highlighted. The last thing we're going to do before we download this is just once more put in our logo. We're going to drag that here. This time we're going to put it in the corner, that way people can't edit it out. We're going to turn down the transparency, and we're ready to download.